Turn up the dive, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wide variety. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, the secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Spectrum live today in studio and present at the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, and my guest is here with me live as well today. So if you have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Guys, Christmas is right around the corner, and if you're looking for something for the Bigfooter in your life, make sure you check out my book that is out, Bigfoot is Hiding. It's 10 years of research and investigations from a very special 80-acre property in Menominee, Michigan, co-authored by Craig Salk and Barb Salk. And if you want to get that, head on over to Amazon.com or WisconsinCaps.com. We are going to be off until February here at CAPS. We are going to be at the Beyond the Veil event in Oshkosh February 9th. And then we are going to be at the Midwest Paracon, MetaParacon in April. And then, guys, we are going to be at the Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention May 9th, 10th, and 11th in Appleton, Wisconsin. If you guys can't make it out in person, head on over to WisconsinCaps.com, click on the CapCon link, and you can get yourself a virtual ticket for just $5 and stream all of the presenters from that day. If you purchase your tickets before December 16th, you will also be entered to win a set of 3 little brick figures of Mothman, the Flatwoods Monster, and Bigfoot from Northwoods Bricks. So that's if you buy a virtual ticket, a Bigfoot hike, the paranormal investigation, or just a regular Saturday ticket. You can get entered for any of that. Awesome. That's what we got going on. So without any further ado, let's see here, that button.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, guys, we are live in studio, as I said. So if you have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. My guest today is Reverend Dr. Tracy Cox, DD. She has been working with people spiritually for over 25 years. When she was 18, she had a near-death experience that made her understand that God exists. She grew up in a very spiritual family, and even as a small child, she was very aware of spirit, and the stories about her growing up showed evidence of ESP and had premonitions that were usually correct. She has also taught yoga and guided meditation up in Ontario, in Ontario. And the list goes on. Ordained minister, doctor of divinity, and so much more. She is a wealth of knowledge here to share that with you guys. So without any further ado, let's bring on Reverend Dr. Tracy Cox, DD. Please welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Awesome. Wonderful day here today.
It is a pleasure. What is it like up there with you?
We're up on Lake Simcoe, which is just north of Toronto, York region. It's a little bit further up, and it's storming. There's snow. There's, the wind is blowing. It's full, very Christmassy, which is awesome. Very excited. Got the lights up just in time, and here we go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Good to hear. Yeah. So you've done a lot of stuff. Let's start with let's start with the beginning. Like so from an early age you had like premonitions and stuff. I always like to figure out
definitely
where it began. Like for any time that we have anybody, that's medium or psychic or has any kind of abilities and stuff, what was that like? How did you first
know?
Yeah.
I have a friend and she calls it psychic Tourette's, and I can't describe it any better. So even as a kid, if you knew something, somebody was creepy, something was weird, something was off, I would blurt it out, and it would get me in a world of trouble, a world of pain. In elementary school, we had, this is kind of a serious conversation to start this, but in my elementary school, we had a principal that was later up on charges and put in jail. It was all over the news for the type of things that those people go to jail for. And I always had a horrible feeling about him. And as even a little kid, I would call him on stuff and it would just blurt out. And he would haul me in the office. He'd haul my mother in. It was unbelievable. And the way it unfolded was very dramatic. So I just, at that point, I knew that when I heard these voices, which I realize now are, angels, I really feel that talking to God, connecting with God on a one-to-one basis without a middleman is the way to go. So I'm a minister and our denomination is metaphysical. And what we try to do is help people learn how to have direct contact with God, with the angels. And a lot of people don't realize that their gut instinct, their intuition, their first impressions of things are usually God and the angels talking to them. So as a little child, that stuff that psychic Tourette's would just blurt out. It would be accurate, but it would be uncomfortable too, right? Because you know things that you shouldn't. You cause situations where all of a sudden the truth is uncovered, and the powers that be hate that. So they really hate that. It's going to be interesting to watch them dealing with this stuff in New Jersey right now, don't you think? These UFOs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, that because
Very up
the
on
thing
that.
that's very interesting is that the original UFOs that they showed in the New Jersey footage, my son and I saw UFOs here in it was about 2008 in the area of Newmarket. There was a sighting there, and there's been a lot of documentation on it. But same kind of thing with these orbs that were amberish, but like turning almost, and then doing these crazy fast formations and back. And so I've been watching that with great interest because it's just like what we saw, right?
Hmm.
So when you
Interesting.
keep an open mind spiritually, I think that you start seeing a lot of things that you normally wouldn't pick up on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about I've had a lot of mediums and psychics and stuff on, and they usually refer to it as like source or spirit in general. You refer to it directly as God. So
Yes, I
is
do.
that the same thing to
I
you?
say the same thing. I say spirit too. For me, I'm trying to reach a broader base because there's a lot of people really questioning their lives, what's going on in the world. They're very scared. They don't have anything to really hang on to.
Mhm.
So I teach practical prayer. So this is the way that we connect with God, with the angels, with spirit. Like you say, spirit, source. I'm a Reiki master teacher as well. And in Reiki, it's not religious, but we use the words universal life force.
Mhm.
But it's all basically the electricity, the spiritual energy that runs everything, the spiritual world. And the way that I describe it, from somebody coming from the background of somebody that's had a near-death experience. So once I was up and out of my body during this medical emergency, it was still me. It was still me. And the whole feeling was that I was in a beautiful place where I belonged, but I wasn't there forever. It was kind of because I was, the doctors were working on me and I went back in. But what I saw was beautiful. And what I saw was that we continue on. We don't just, people forget that what we are is like a ghost and we're driving, our body's like a car, right? The spirit's the driver and the body's the car. So that's the way it works. And eventually, like any car, they get junked. But the spirit goes on, the ghost continues. And that's what I saw from that. So I think that gave me a really unique perspective to be able to comfort people and talk to people as clergy, because I know that death isn't the end. So when you lose somebody, they're still there. There's just something about the body that causes us to not be able to look into the spirit world normally. Sometimes we do, and I think all of us do. We're just not aware of it, or it's very scary or confusing, or I'm sure you do paranormal investigations and the things that you've seen have just blown your mind, right?
Mhm.
So it's pretty hard to not believe in spirit when you go through those things, that there's something beyond us, whatever that might be, right? Whatever you call it,
Mhm.
doesn't matter to me. Just that you're happy and you're connecting with it, right?
Absolutely. That is definitely the important part.
Exactly.
So when in okay, well let me talk about this for a little bit. When you connect with spirit source or any of the angels or anything like that,
Yeah.
what would you consider yourself? Because there's definitely a difference between like a spiritualist, an empath, a medium,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
so where do you fall on those spectrum?
I would be like a spiritualist minister, because the metaphysical denomination was an offshoot of spiritualism.
Okay.
So going right back to like, the Fox sisters, all that kind of stuff. Also, the roots are in Christian Science too. Like there's a lot of that spiritualism, that kind of 1800s, when the metaphysical societies, everything was so new and beautiful, and it was so popular too. I mean, people forget how popular it was. Mary Baker Eddy, who started the Christian Science religion, she used to give talks at her home, and I can't remember what state it was in, but she would sometimes get 40,000 people at them.
That's a
Like
big
she
help.
was like a rock star, right? It's very different times than we're going through today, right?
Yeah, that's a very important point. A lot of people believe that, ghost hunting and stuff started with the Ghost Hunters TV show, and it really
Oh,
didn't.
gee. Oh,
It
no, it's
really
since the
didn't.
1800s. Yeah, it was very much a, you know, everybody was involved. It was very interesting. It was a huge, huge new, it was like their internet, kind of.
I mean, you just look at like literature and stuff, even going back. I mean, you have it throughout time, even going back to, the kings and queens over in Europe and stuff. They
Of
did
course.
ghost hunts and spiritualist stuff and spoke to the other side, and it's nothing
For
new.
sure, of course, of course. And a king and the emperors always had an astrologer, always had a court astrologer, and that still continues today. It's just hidden because they don't want people to, think that they're woo woo or whatever they call it, right?
Mhm.
But it's still used today. These things are still valid. And it's pretty exciting right now because I think now we're starting to see a lot of more acceptance in the mainstream, and also a lot more, like I was saying, just with the New Jersey, with the UFOs, all of a sudden we're getting all this disclosure and all these things happening, and it's kind of starting to wake people up. So
Absolutely. I
it's
was
interesting, very interesting.
My next question is why did you think that there's such a movement forward for this stuff? And you kind of touched on that, just more openness, more people, more
Yeah, I
shows
think
like
so.
this, more everything that are out there.
I think people are really seeking too. Like, I think that the biggest thing that's happened, in this back, and I don't talk politics ever, and I don't ever pick a side, because with clients, I do a lot of what I call talking people off the ledge. So
Mm.
they could be of any political stripe. I don't care. I love them all, and I'm here to help them all. And God loves everybody. He wants to help everybody. They just need to ask. So that's what I work with, is that I won't pick a side. I believe that church and state should be separate, and that if we're a church, we're not political at all. We're here for everybody. So that being said, what I find is that a lot of people are very it's a very difficult time for a lot of people right now because they're very confused. There's a lot of disclosure coming out. There's a lot of new information coming where they're kind of revisiting all their deeply held beliefs. And I feel that the work that I do is really important with that, because you can't hang your future and your happiness on a political candidate. I don't care which one it is. I don't care which one. If that's the way that you rate your happiness, you're doomed to be unhappy 50% of the time, right? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So for me, I'm just trying to get people to realize that what's important is our connection with ourself, our true self, who we are, who the spirit is in this body. And it's always for a higher purpose, and it's always for something positive. So that's what I help people do, is try to bring in that energy. Forget about the stuff with politics and stuff. Of course, it's part of life, but let's have our lives too. It goes back and forth all the time. It has since the dawn of man. So let's connect something important, which is God, which is spirit, which is the angels, which is, I don't care if you don't believe, you could call it the universal life force. You could call it the electricity that runs your body. There's still a lot that can be done with that to help people's mentality. And a lot of people are suffering right now. So that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of wake up, wake up. It's okay. Take a deep breath. We'll be fine. Right?
Raise the vibration.
Exactly. Raise the vibration. It's so huge. I mean, I think I have very good feeling about what's coming up, because if you go to the age of Aquarius predictions, which of course there was that song when we were kids, or when I was a kid, right? And it talks about how great it's going to be. And we're in that now. So what it is that the age of Aquarius predictions is that all people are going to finally wake up and pull together, because we should be pulling for all of humanity. We should want everybody to have a good time, be able to do what they want, live their lives, leave others alone, right? There's a spiritual component of minding your own business too. And I feel that a lot of us have been kind of sick of getting told what to do. and who to like, who not to like. Like, you need to just leave people alone and live their lives.
Mhm.
And if they have a basis with spirit, then they're going to be strong, they're going to be intelligent, they're going to be making good choices. And that's all we need, right? Good choices, and then everybody gets along. So that's what I feel, is that the age of Aquarius is, these things are going to happen. They are, but there's going to be a lot of shaking of the old foundations for a while. And so you just need to hang on for the ride, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've brought up the alien stuff and the UFO stuff as well. And I can't remember offhand which president it was, but they made a comment about how the thing that would bring us all together as a world, as a global unit, would be an external threat, like an alien invasion or something. Do you think that that's what's actually coming, or do you think that these are actually
No,
the
no, I don't.
extraterrestrials coming in, or interdimensionals?
No, I don't. I don't actually see that. I feel there's a really strong spiritual component with all this stuff. I feel that, when people say aliens, who's to say that's not an angel? A certain level of angel, because if you go deep into teachings such as the Kabbalah, the old stuff, the Old Testament God stuff, there's different levels of angels. There's positive and negative ones too. These things could be coming through to us just because of negativity that we're drawing to us with how people are acting so cracked. Like, there's some people that the stuff they say now is just so negative.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, right? And who's to say that those aren't spirits coming to tell us to shape up or to give us warnings? Or so I don't have a negative feeling at all. I don't feel it's going to be like that. But that's typical of a politician. Rule through fear.
Yep.
I'm sick of that. I'm sick of that, because that is when we talk about what's evil, that's evil. To continue to scare people. That's all we've been living with. We've been very obviously living with that for the last probably 10 years. It's always one crisis after another. And I think the human race is really sick of it. And I think they're starting to see that some of this is a manipulation. If you're always making people afraid, they're not going to be able to be very powerful, are they? Right? So that's what I do as a minister, is that I give people simple spiritual tools so that they can calm down, because this stuff that's getting thrown at them is very, very stressful. So we need a way to kind of turn off the news, don't think about it, live our lives, enjoy this beautiful world that God's made, right? It's beautiful. Why not get out and enjoy it instead of listen to these talking heads? They all say the same thing anyways, right?
I think anybody that's watched my show here on the Paranormal Spectrum here on Untold Radio, a lot of my guests, a lot of the shows have focused around the negativity of, the not just media, but the television shows, like,
Oh yeah.
not so much Ghost Hunters, but a lot of the other paranormal shows. Everything is a demon. Everything is dark. Everything
Yeah.
is negative. Oh,
That's
it's
right.
scary. Every Bigfoot is out there. It's all, Alaskan killer Bigfoot and, these big hairy demons out in the woods and stuff. And everything has to be so scary and negative. I can't remember one of my last guests, we were just talking about, like you watch gorilla documentaries. Well, gorillas aren't out to kill every single person that comes in the woods. Why should
No,
we
not
think
at all.
that Bigfoot is? If these are just,
That's right.
if they're an animal, they're like gorillas and they're not threatening. And if they're like more of a person or a tribe, well, then they're, like the indigenous people or the First Nations people, and they're not out to kill us either. They just want to be left alone and live.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. People are just so sick of being told what to do. They just want to be left alone. And of course, animals are the same way.
Yeah,
and whatever these, there's so many, like, what do you feel about Bigfoot? You tell me, because I'm kind of interested in this.
As far as what, like what it is, or in
Yeah,
general,
what do you think it is?
I always have to go with, my personal experiences. And I really want to say that it's a flesh and blood creature out in the woods. And I'm not so drawn to the woo stuff of the interdimensional and all that, but I have had a couple experiences out there that I can't explain. And if, I always say, if you're out in the woods and a UFO lands, or if you're out in the woods looking for Bigfoot and a UFO lands, the chances that the UFO and Bigfoot are connected is very slim. So if you're out in the woods and you have a weird experience, well, you could be encountering a fairy creature, a paranormal entity, or anything like that. And just looking for Bigfoot doesn't mean it's connected. So my weird experiences, I've seen a blue orb out in the woods with my eyes, like just float through.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if they're connected or not, but I know the stuff exists. I know I've had interactions with a lot of different things, and I don't.
So have you seen a Bigfoot personally?
I have seen one through thermal imaging.
Okay.
Live in person. My mom is actually, she's on the team as well, and she's seen two of them, one down in Kentucky and one in Upper Michigan.
Cool.
And I was with her both times. So unfortunately, I missed the boat on those, but I was there. So awesome.
Okay. So do you think that perhaps there's a spiritual quotient with the Bigfoot too, that there's, because like I said, like we're in the spirit world now. It's our body that causes us to not be able to see. And I think it's honestly to keep us from going insane. Like if we could see everything going on all the time, it would just, we couldn't handle it, right? There's something about what I've found with my near-death experiences that when you're out and into that spiritual world, it's very different. It's very, the biggest thing that I got from it is that, like, I wear glasses and my eyes are quite weak, like that. Like I really need glasses. And as soon as I was out, my vision was perfect. And I almost cried. It was so perfect. And it was sharp. And the saturation of colors was like nothing I'd ever seen. And then as I started to look forward, it's not like you would walk through a room. It's like you would just start to move and go through. So it's very different, but I think sometimes the stuff that people are seeing they think it's UFOs, maybe it's spirits, maybe it's angels. We don't know what it is. Maybe it's elementals. Who knows? Maybe that's coming through from the spirit world, and for some reason it's just showing itself at that time. Or maybe it's not even aware that it's showing itself. Maybe there's something strong going on with its energy that we can have a peek. Like nobody really knows. That's the thing. Like if anybody says they know, I don't know. Do they?
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. If we're able to do these things, to astral project, to communicate with the other side and spirits and stuff like that, and you talk about like Bigfoot having these weird paranormal abilities and stuff. Well, so can we. So it doesn't it make sense that an animal that is more in tune with nature, can communicate differently and have these abilities. It's so conceited that we think that we're the highest intelligence and all the stuff that we're learning about, plants communicating, who'd have thought that your
mushrooms talk to each other underneath. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We have to remember that there's so much that we don't know about. Now there's the whole disclosure about the fact that they think that there's aliens in the sea. That these orbs will fly around and then straight down into the sea. And it's like, sure, why not? Why not? In the Bible, it talks about Leviathan, and Leviathan is that massive monster under the sea that essentially goes and gets, the negative, bad people, if you really want to dumb it down. But that's right in the Bible, and there's so much more than we know about. We just get brief glimpses into it. And that's what makes it fascinating. And that's why people want to talk about this and learn about it. And yeah.
I think that's another good point to bring up too. Whether you're, religious or not, you have this book that was written, a very, very long time ago. And if you can take, like these, people go into caves and they see these caves art or the pictographs or all this stuff that, well, we believe that because these are the First Nations people or whoever put them there. And, that's fact. They went out, they saw a woolly mammoth, they drew a woolly mammoth. Well, you have very similar things in your text documents and stuff, and then the Bible and stuff is one of them,
Yeah.
So maybe there's not as high deity that created the entire world, but they saw things, they had these experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the prophets that wrote the Bible, they experienced things. Like if you go into Ezekiel, he had full on hallucinations that were just epic, right? And I don't think people should be so stuck on, did this really happen? Or, was this somebody reporting on this? And it's like, well, of course things get changed, but there's still lessons to be learned from reading it. So, once again, it keeps your vibe high. If you focus on the holy, the spiritual, the sacred, even, and if you don't believe in God or any of that, then more secular, like Reiki or energy work, things like that, you're still going to raise your vibration and have a much more positive energy around you. And like, if you go for the science of this, they've studied that the human body emits an electrical force. I believe it's 88 inches across. So that's big. And that touches everybody that comes into contact with us. So if we can elevate that energy, we're just going to help people around us just by being more positive ourselves. And that's not positive like the false toxic positivity that they talk about, where, everything is, oh, you can't complain because XYZ. That's not what that's about. And I don't believe in that. I believe that you should, if something's bothering you, you should say it right away, get it dealt with, and move on. It's very unhealthy to ruminate over things, push them down, not tell people what you really think. That's where a lot of health problems come from. And that is being taught, not, science, yes, but there's a lot of experimentation going on right now, supposedly with practical prayer in Russia, where they've got people praying for specific things and being able to move the needle in that way, and it working, and documenting it. And I know that they did one with Russia in Deep Blue, which was that chess computer, and people would pray and the computer would change to the direction that the people prayed. There's an energy there. That's the thing. It's very hard to quantify, but it's beginning to be disclosed, slowly happening.
You're absolutely right. There's people talk about the paranormal. Wow, it's so weird. We can't, we don't know anything about it, but there's so much science, and people always want to say, well, there's no science behind it. Whereas,
but there is.
And there is. There absolutely is. There's government documents that talk about how remote viewing works.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. That goes along with the remote viewing. Yes, that's absolutely definitely proven.
And telekinesis and all this stuff is proven by science that it does work reliably. As far as remote viewing and stuff, maybe not so much, but it works. And
right.
Well,
what I say is only God is 100%. So when I started off, 30 years ago at the New Age expos and psychic fairs, I would do spiritual readings for people. And, they'd want me to predict stuff. And the thing is, only God is 100%. There's a reason for the fact that I'm going to be wrong some of the time. It's that keeps you humble. You can't, I'm the great and mystical. I'm not going to be able to do that. And there's always things that decisions that you make that change your trajectory. It's not, maybe the larger things are set, but the way that you get to the mountain is free will, make your choices. And I think that that's hard for people to wrap their head around, the fact that you're just not going to know 100%. It's blocked. It's blocked for a purpose.
I want to remind everyone that we are live today. So if you have any questions for our guest here, put them in the comments section and we will get to them as soon as we can. So let's transition a little bit here. When you're talking about how, people can see these things and have these experiences, we always talk about little kids being able to see things that aren't there in that. Why do you think that as we grow up, do we lose the ability naturally? Is it honed out of us because of, our parents, our upbringing and stuff, why can kids see stuff that we can't anymore?
Yeah, I think that there's a certain amount of the fact that other people telling you that, oh, that's crazy, or you can't see that. And eventually it kind of shuts it down. I think that, there's people that are more sensitive, and maybe they just hold it inside and don't talk about it anymore. But I do think that's a big part of it. I think kids come out very pure, and they're just picking up on the energy. So yeah, I do think they can see more.
That's a really good point too, because that brings us right back to the negativity and the blocking of stuff. If you're constantly told that your imaginary friend doesn't exist and you're seeing things and that.
That's right.
Well, you're getting these negative blockages in your head and stuff that stop you from seeing that stuff.
Oh, we just flanged out there. Woo! Somebody didn't want to.
That's it. Yeah.
Somebody didn't want this message about praying working to get
Absolutely.
out. Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, on a broad spectrum, looking at, so when our bodies pass away and we move into the spirit world and stuff, there's some people that have different beliefs on this, and I want to get your opinion. Is
sure.
Like let's say your grandma passes away. Now her spirit stays with us. Does that spirit get reincarnated into a new person? Like we've heard about, like, trying to reach that higher level and having to come back a couple times and that. So if you're mediums and stuff that are able to talk to your grandma and she's already reincarnated, how does her spirit still there? Is part of it still there, or what is
yeah,
your
I know what you're saying.
it?
For me, if somebody's been reincarnated and they won't be coming through to me, they got to be in spirit for me to make contact. Yeah, if they're reincarnated, they're off living in their other life. So it's not like they're in the spirit world anymore for me. I don't know if different mediums are different, but for me that doesn't make any sense.
So how do you think, how do you think that determines it? Like, is it after a certain time they get reincarnated?
I know what you're saying. Reincarnation is really not my bag. I'm not really into it. I believe that it happens, yes, and I'm sure that it does. But for me, it's not anything on my radar. I'm just dealing with people once they cross over into the spirit world. They're usually waiting for their loved ones, so they're still there.
That makes sense.
They're still there. They haven't gone anywhere yet. That's what I find. I think that what happens when we go into the spirit world is that we meet up with our loved ones and, teachers and guides and whatever else is going on. And we have a life there. And we may visit and come back in to see the people that we love here, but there's way more action on the other side, right? So eventually they'll join us, and then you'll decide at that point what to do. That's what I understand.
Very good.
But like I said, only God is 100%. None of us really know until it's.
That's fair. Opinions are based on what we personally learn, and that's what you got.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we are coming up on the end of the show, and I know you have a hard stop here, so I want to make sure that we get a chance to, if we have any last minute questions, throw them in the comment section. We'll get to them. But otherwise, what is the message that you want to pass on? What can people take away from you and what you do?
Okay, that's a good question. I think that the whole point right now is to try to be optimistic, even though people are trying to rattle you. There's a lot of fear in the air. If you just take 3 deep breaths and really focus on what you do want to manifest, leave the fear. Focus on what you hold dear, what you want to happen, instead of what you don't want to happen. And that you will find will elevate that spiritual energy around you, and you'll find that things will start going more and more right. And turn off the news, because it's a fear factory, right? Right now, they're really trying to rattle everybody. They love it. They can manipulate them if they can get them scared. And we have to remember that, once again, like I said, this is a beautiful world that God's given us, and we need to get out and enjoy it. And like you're doing, focus on something real. Focus on that's like a direct contact, as opposed to having somebody else tell you about it. You're getting out there and seeing for yourself. And that's so important, because that's you're really living your life. Do you know what I mean? So I think that if people do that more, they'll find that life will flow better, and it'll be far more interesting than having these talking heads telling us what to think and what to do. And yes, this is true, and no, this isn't. And right? Find out for yourself what's true.
We have a question here. How do you help non-believers connect with God without them getting angry?
Without them getting angry. I think that's a very good question. The way that I do that is I don't ever introduce it unless somebody asks me. So are you saying, like, I would never preach at somebody? I would never try to convert them. I would never try to prove to them that God exists, because, you know, people are going to believe or not believe. That's not my business. Like I said, it's a very spiritual thing to just mind your own business. It's hard for some people, but that's what I do. I don't preach. They have to come to me and ask.
I think another good point on that is, you know, without bringing it up as God, you know, like we've talked about the energy in this, you know, the higher vibration, just being a
sure, they can use whatever word they want. So they don't have to use God. They can use spirit. They can use source. They can use the universal life force, the electricity that runs our bodies. Like, we know that exists. That's been documented. The Kirlian photography settled all that, right? So that's what I think.
I think, you know, capital God, G, you know, is a kind of bitter word in some people's mouths. And as soon as you bring that up, they think, oh, nope, don't want to do that. And when you take that away and just say, you know, there's this happiness and higher energy, and, you know, you have that feeling and raise the vibration that way, I think that will do just as much as trying to put a name on something.
Exactly. It's what anyone connects to. And like I said, everybody's spirituality is as individual as a fingerprint. Mm-hmm. So what works for one person doesn't work for another. I'm not trying to make anyone believe. I'm trying to get them to connect with their own true self. And once you get that energy of your true self, whether you believe in or say the word God, whether you say the word source, spirit, universal life force, it doesn't matter. It's how you connect, right? But I'm not worried about offending anybody using the word God. Let me tell you, I love God. I'm a big God lover. God, you know, has done everything in my life. And for me, I'm not ashamed of that. So
she says it's for her brother. She will continue to pray for him. I totally agree. And thanks for your answer. You're very welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. That was a great question.
Do you for people that are interested in, you know, this, what are some basic things that they can try and do? You talked about like taking deep breaths and stuff like that. What else do you recommend for people that want to?
Sure. The first thing, like the power of 3 deep breaths, it is so important. So the second that you start getting rattled or stressed is like, take 3 deep breaths. So in through your nose slowly, out through your mouth slowly. 3 deep breaths will slow you down. And what it does is it puts your thinking into your executive function part of your brain, which is in the frontal lobe. It makes you smarter and you begin to make good choices when you're functioning from that executive section of the brain. So that for me is such a huge thing. It's number one, because you don't have to believe in anything. We all believe that we breathe. So if you can take 3 deep breaths and then, see how you feel and make your decision, you'll find that life will be so much easier. So number one, that works amazing. For me, it's ask for help immediately. So when I'm teaching practical prayer, and I if they go to my website, which is right there on the screen, all my courses are there, and I do a podcast too. And it's so important to ask for help when it happens. So when a stressful situation happens, you know, for me, it's please God, help me, show me what to do. And you will get an immediate download. Like, it will be immediate, and it'll be the thing to do, because like I said earlier, that first gut intuition, that instinct, it's always correct. It's when you second guess it. I use an example of, you go to the grocery store buying stuff, and you think, oh, I should buy cream. And then you're like, no, my husband bought cream the night before. We don't need that. And you get home and there's no coffee cream, and you're trying to host somebody and be fancy, right? So you're kicking yourself you didn't buy the cream. So when you get those gut instincts, you need to buy the cream, right? Just get it home. You're going to need it. And you'll find that happens all the time in the supermarket. I know it's a mundane example, but it happens all the time. You think you need something, you go, no, I don't. And then you get home and you really did. So that's what I'm trying to do. Use it as a practical day-to-day thing. So always in a dialogue with God, spirit, the universal life force, all that kind of good stuff, right? That's what we're trying to do is live on a spiritual level so that things here in the material world don't rattle us as much, because we've got, a greater purpose.
I think that's great advice. It works so well, like a lot of your relationships, your significant others and stuff, you have this little nagging thing that something happens and you think, oh, I'm not going to bring it up. It's not a big deal. And it happens again. And it starts to snowball, and you start to, well, this is really bothering me. I wish they'd fix it. And I wish, but you never brought it up. If it was the first thing and you just said, drop your ego and say,
exactly, hey, right at the time. That's my whole, because I do a lot of marriage coaching too, because, I perform weddings and people have problems later on down the road. So you need to talk about it and get it out in the open. And the problem is it's like a boiling pot, right? You leave a lid on it and it's just going to get crazy. So if you get it off your chest right away, sure, it's uncomfortable, you can squirm, but you've gotten it off your chest and nobody's harboring a resentment, and eventually that just kills a relationship if you're not being honest. If somebody does something that just makes you cringe every time they do it, but you've never told them, how are they going to deal with it, right? They might get mad for a second, but whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are at the end of the show here. I know, like you said, you had to get going right away. So I want to make sure that we get in. Where can people find you? You got your website. We got that in the show notes. Tell people where they can get a hold of you and all the stuff that you do.
Yeah, so they can go to my website, reverend.tracycox.com, and everything I do is there. I like to say that, some people call me a spiritual life coach. So I work with people. And like I said, the main thing is to get them off the ledge. Because life is hard and sometimes things just seem out of control. But I've worked with so many people and gotten them to a place where they're really happy. And the main thing is to remember is that I am trying to help people so that they don't need to talk to somebody like me, right? I want to hook them up directly, like I said, with spirit, their true self. And then they don't need to talk to me anymore because they know how to run their life so that they're happy. So that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Just come visit me on my website, and feel free to ask any questions.
Very good. Very good. Check out your podcast as well, and everything that you got going on over there, and get yourself in a better place, sounds like. So
there you go.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I will let you get to your other stuff that you got going on, but thanks for coming on. Thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a great time.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. That is our show for this week. We had some technical issues on my end this morning, and that's why we got a little late start here. But thank you all for tuning in, and we really appreciate all that you do. Like, share, subscribe to the Untold Radio Network and Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. So until next time, guys, remember, we're all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. Be well, take care, and I'll see you next week.
You seem to know something I don't. What's going on?